President Joe Biden tested positive for COVID-19 this week, but that's not the only health issue that has some people concerned. Former White House physician, now Congressman Ronny Jackson, says the president's mental decline is so bad that he should resign. Now, he should resign for the good of the country. Would you please welcome to the show from the great state of Texas, Congressman and author of the new book, Holding the Line, Congressman Ronny Jackson. Well, when we originally had you scheduled to come talk about your new book, Holding the Line, we did not realize all the medical things that would be going on with Joe Biden this week. He's come down with COVID. They say the symptoms are mild, right, and we're glad of that. But we were told by President Biden and others that this was a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's right. He's been vaccinated twice and boosted twice. So somebody hadn't been telling us quite the whole fact about that we still can get COVID.
No, I think we've been misled a bunch on this. I think so much of this is just revolved around politics and what's really helped the Democrats out. I mean, honestly, my opinion is that, I don't think he would be president right now if it hadn't been for COVID and the unsolicited mail-in ballots that were sent all over the country. I think, I
want to make sure that our audience understands. You worked in the Bush White House, the Obama White House. You were the primary White House physician for President Obama and then President Trump.
That's right.
Your history is not one of politics, it's one of medicine. And that's the most highly trusted position in the country in medicine, is being the personal physician to the President of the United States. An extraordinary position to be placed in. And you served 3 presidents. When you were with President Trump, people constantly question his cognitive ability. Mm-hmm. You, in fact, gave him a cognitive test. How did that turn out?
He scored 30 out of 30, a perfect score, and I knew he would. I probably wouldn't have approached him with it if I hadn't known he would do well on it. And I knew he would because, to be honest with you, you know him. He has a better memory than I do, and it's a lot of it's memory and whatnot. And so I knew for sure he was going to do that. The far left, the elite academic, in academic medicine in Stanford and Harvard and Yale, and the liberals and the mainstream media, they were demanding that that he have a physical and a cognitive assessment, because there's just no other way to try to get rid of him. They'd tried everything they could since before he was even sworn in as president, and this was their last attempt. And so I just approached him about it one day, and I said, "Hey, we're about to do your physical exam. There's one other thing we could do. We could do this cognitive test." And he said, and take some of this, just get it off the table. And he said, "Well, what's the downside?" I said, "Well, the downside is if you don't do very well, we're still going to have to kind of, we're going to have to let people know." And he wasn't concerned about it, neither was I. And he said, "Let's do it." We did it, and we didn't tell anybody. And your daughter was a part of this. We kept it tight all the way to the end. And then I walked out in that press briefing room, and Sarah told me I was going to be out there for 10 minutes or less, and I was out there for an hour and 20 minutes.
They hammered you. I remember the day. I saw the press conference.
But we went out there, and Sanjay Gupta and medical correspondents from MSNBC, that place was packed, and they were there as assassins to take me down and to undermine my report of the president. I gave them the facts. I gave them tons of objective data. I stood up there and answered every single question they had for an hour and 20 minutes, and they started asking the most ridiculous questions, so much so that the rest of the press criticized the White House press corps, saying they made themselves look foolish with the questions they were asking. After that, all of that stuff was off the table. Nobody talked about it at all anymore. But as far as I'm concerned, this is my point now, is that they demanded that he have a cognitive test, and not because he did anything that was worrisome from a cognitive standpoint. It was because they didn't like his style. They didn't like his personality, right? But now we have a president that actually has obvious cognitive disability, and he's supposed to be the head of state and our commander-in-chief, and where are these people at now? It's crickets. They don't say anything.
And Congressman, that's what I wanted to point out, was that you had administered this test. So when you call for a test like this to be given to Joe Biden, you're not doing it from a standpoint of, hey, I wouldn't dare let Trump have that. You put President Trump through that. You understand what would be revealed from it, and it's a medical decision on your part to say, Gosh, we ought to do the same thing with Joe Biden.
It is. You know, I'm worried about our country. I'm worried about it's a national security issue for us right now. You can see what's happening overseas. He's supposed to go over there and he's supposed to project strength and inspire confidence in our allies and keep our adversaries at bay. Our adversaries do not fear us right now. They see the Joe Biden administration as a window of opportunity to get away with anything they can. And I'm talking about China, Russia, Iran. And, you know, and so I'm worried. I know what it takes physically and mentally to do that job. It's very demanding. And I know for a fact that he cannot do that job because I can watch him on TV. You don't have to be a physician to see what's going on. I tell people all the time, he's had gaffes for 40 years, right? We got 40 years of tape of this man with the gaff. This is different. He's confused. He shuffles when he walks. He slurs his speech. He's lost. He has a short temper. He's prone to angry outbursts. These are all things that a lot of us have seen in some of our own family members when they start having age-related cognitive issues.
And he shakes hands with ghosts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing that he does.